live fade.
Another live fade. I was pushing keys, pushing pedals, turning knobs, everything.
It worked.
Hey guys, welcome to this week's Guitareo live lesson. We are going to teach you your first solo if you've never gotten into soloing on the guitar before.
Correct.
And the first rotation that I did of that song was a little bit more spiced up version of the solo that I'm going to teach you. And you don't have to know really anything on the guitar to be able to play this. And that was kind of the goal. And all this is kind of minor bluesy. It's not a blues progression, but it's very bluesy in style.
It is.
And it's going to be really easy. It's mostly whole notes. There are a couple of bends and things just to kind of expose you to some lead techniques. But the goal here is going to be, if you've never played lead guitar before, to jump in and have something to play musical. And if you've been learning some pentatonic scales, let's get some volume here. Something like that, then you're going to have something to use that, or you're going to be able to use that scale with some music. So.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Download the resources if you want to. We've got the jam track that we just played over, right? That's the jam track?
Yeah, that's a jam track. All it is a loop of a C minor chord, or just a C power chord with like a minor implied.
Right.
E flat, measure, F, one measure, back to C, 2, 3, and then on the 4,
Totally.
it goes to B flat to C.
Yeah.
So it's just a groove, it's a very safe progression to use the minor pentatonic.
That's literally
scale.
exactly what I was going to say. It's a great progression that you kind of can't go wrong playing the minor pentatonic on it. Nothing's going to sound that bad.
Yeah, and it's a really good musical scenario to kind of just cut loose and let yourself go musically and play what you hear and feel.
Exactly. And make sure you get that PDF if you're watching on YouTube. You can click on the link in the description. That'll take you over to guitarlessons.com. And you can download the PDF there as well, and the jam track as well. But the PDF will have the tabs for the little solo we're going to learn.
And if you have any questions related to this, you can ask them while I'm going through it, or questions related to anything else, that's fine. We'll get to those as well. So I'm going to put a little bit cleaner of a sound on here, so it's not as noisy.
I like that buzz, though.
Single coils.
I know, right?
So actually, it's good. Even a little bit more clean, so it's not as bad. So that's going to be our starting note, a C, and you don't have to know what that is. All you have to do is count up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 to the 8th fret. And we're going to play a whole note here. But there is a little stylistic thing that you're going to want to look out for. So it's going to start right on the 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm just sliding in from below. Probably 2 frets below is what I normally would do. So that's my first note. And you're going to hold that out for the entire measure. So here's your count off. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So slide up to it. And all you do is put your index finger down on this case, the 6th fret. Pick it. Stay fretting the note, and then slide it up to the 8th fret. And then hold that for all 4 counts. So 1, 2, 3, 4.
You might need to practice the sliding motion a little bit. I found when a lot of people are learning that, they kind of overgo or don't quite make it. You got to get the dexterity down.
And one thing that will really help you with that is to fret the note. Don't even worry about playing along to the jam track at first or with a metronome. Just get your finger set up, play it, and then actually look at the fret you're shooting for. And just do that over and over again. And you'll train your fingers to stop 2 frets above where you started, right? So that's the first thing. And if you'll notice, there's a big squiggly line above that first whole note in the first measure. All that is vibrato, and you can do that or not do this depending on your current skill level. It doesn't matter. But I just want to kind of expose you to this because it's a really cool thing to do as far as lead guitar, and it's not that difficult. You just have to spend some time developing the coordination. So you have that slide, and all I'm doing, let me get a little more, is kind of pushing up on the string. And my thumb is acting as kind of a pivot point back here to give some leverage.
There's lots of different techniques for vibrato.
Lots of different techniques, but this is probably the easiest one. So if your finger is right there on that 8th fret, once you do the slide, your thumb is kind of using a counterbalance or whatever you want to call it.
Right.
Kind of a foundation.
Yeah,
so you can push up on
as
that
a
note.
fulcrum a little
Right,
bit, right?
That's the word I'm looking for. Thank you very much. So that's the first thing. And if this is all you can do for right now, that's fine. Just go through that one note, slide up to it, and then put some vibrato on it. Or if you don't want to put vibrato there, that's your call too. That's a stylistic thing. So that's what you can do. The next note in the next fret the next measure, it's a little bit more simple because I kind of wanted to just take it one step at a time. You're already introduced to sliding. You're already introduced to some vibrato. What we're gonna do is go to the next note below in the C minor pentatonic scale. And if you don't know this one, don't worry about it. We're really just getting our hands on the guitar and learning, how to play a melody at this point. So you can use your third finger or you can use your fourth finger. It's really up to you. So the next note is the 11th fret of the B string, the next string over the second thickest string. You're gonna hold that out for 4 beats as well. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can put some vibrato on there if you want. If not, that's fine too. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now what we're gonna do is we have another whole note in the next measure, the third measure. So we're gonna slide up to the 10th fret of the third string, the G string, the third thickest string, with our third finger. Okay, same idea. Start off on the 8th fret, 2 frets below the 10th fret. Hit it and slide up. You can put some vibrato on if you want to, but at this point it's just like the game memory, right? You're just memorizing which frets in which order to put your fingers. That's really all we're doing. The main thing is that you're making some music and that you're starting to get some coordination together to play lead guitar. So 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. And then on beat 4, we have something that's called a bend. If you probably have heard of it, but if not, I'll show you what it is. Basically, we started right there. What you're gonna do is play that note again, and then let it back down. All you're gonna do is push up on the string and let it back down. And what will help you get some leverage on that is if you get your thumb over the fretboard a little bit and come out with your first and second fingers to kind of help push up on the string. So you're probably gonna wanna experiment with just that for a little while. And if this is a lot for you, only learn the first 4 measures of the solo maybe. But take it literally one note at a time. The first note, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Here's the bend. So you push it up, let it back down. Then you have this note here on the 8th fret of the G string with your first finger. And then you're gonna end with the 10th fret of the D string, the 4th fattest string, or third. What would be the inverse of that?
Half full, half empty, right?
Yeah, but that's the basic. And this, if you could play this part, the second part really isn't much different. You're just doing kind of the same idea on different strings and different notes. So I would really practice this first. First, just get that first note down. Slide from the 8th to the 6th to the 8th fret. 2, maybe put some vibrato in there. And it may take you a while to develop that functionality with your fingers and figure out how to do that with your hand, but that's okay. Next note, 1, 2, 3, 4. Next note, 1, 2, 3. And here is the bend. So if I had played this note just, casually, and I get ready for my bend, my thumb goes over the top, and my other fingers come help and get ready to bend. Pick it, push it up, let it back down to its resting position. 8th fret with your first finger, and then finally we have a whole note on measure 4, at 10th fret.
Can I interject quickly?
Please.
One thing that I find sometimes a little bit helpful when you're learning something where you're just memorizing the locations first is start with maybe leaving the vibrato, the slide, and the bend out.
Yep.
Get the note locations down first and get that kind of under your belt, and then you can go ahead and add. It depends on how you learn. Some people learn better if they learn like the whole technique and just go piece by piece, or learn the whole locations of all the notes first, and then go back and add the little flavor elements. And one other thing I'll mention, and you said it, but I just want to reiterate, when you're bending, use other fingers on the same string behind it. So a lot of times, I know my main bending finger is my third finger, my ring finger. These 2 fingers go on the same string right behind it, and it makes bending so much easier. You always see people trying to bend with just that finger, and I don't even think I could do it. Like, it's
tough.
hard, right?
Yeah, and you have no control.
Yeah, exactly. Anyways, that's all I wanted to say.
Another thing you might want to do if you're brand new to music in general is start off just by clapping the rhythm. So you have the whole note in the first measure. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Measure 3 is a dotted half note, which gets 3 beats. 1, 2, 3. And then you have this 2/8 note figure at the end of measure 3, which is really deceiving because you have a bend, right? Da, da, da. It's really kind of a triplet feel. Da, da. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's the rhythm.
You're doing that as 3 because it's ba ba.
I guess it would be
da, da, da.
Yeah, it would be 2/16 and an eighth note.
Okay.
It would be more like that, something like that, I think. Or yeah,
This is one of those things that's sometimes easier to decipher if you listen to it, right?
So da 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 da. Right, would be that figure. So give that one a try. Let me play it one more time. You know what? Actually, I'm going to play it with the jam track so you can hear it.
I was going to ask if you wanted me to play, but that works even better.
Yeah. Let's see. Please forgive the noise. Hold on. What? Oh, here we go. Oh, muted still. Oh, there you go. And that's it.
Nice.
That's the first half of the solo. So that's going to give you something really cool to shoot for, and you're going to have a nice goal and something that you can actually play along to a track making real music. Now let's go on to the second part of the solo. And if you're feeling overwhelmed right now, don't worry about that. Just stop right here and sit back and enjoy the rest of the lesson and come back to the rest of this later, or download the PDF and the jam track. It'll be there for you whenever you're ready.
Or check out the Playing Your First Solo series.
Oh yeah, this is a different solo from that, but it's very similar ideas. Yeah, very similar ideas. The second 4 bars, or bars 5 through 8, start off the exact same way. Start off with a quiet guitar, sliding up to measure 8 with your first finger for a whole note. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you're going to put your pinky or your third finger, whichever one you like, on the 11th fret of that same high E string for a whole measure. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can put vibrato on there or not put vibrato on, it's up to you. So start off the same way. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now we're gonna have to kind of make a shift up to the 13th fret of the high E string. We have kind of the same rhythmical figure, a dotted half note, which is 3 beats. 13th fret, and I like to use my third finger for this, and you'll see why in a second. 1, 2, 3. And now we have kind of the same idea here. We have 2 8th notes. The first one is bent and released on that 13th fret, same exact spot. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. And then you have, play it again, bend it and release it. And then you're going to play the 11th fret of the high E string with your first finger. But the thing is, with this bend, it's a full step bend, so you have to push up a little bit harder.
4 times as hard.
Okay, so you're definitely going to want to get your thumb in a place where it helps get some leverage, and then your first and second fingers behind that E string. And what you're doing is shooting for this note that's 2 frets higher than the one you're actually fretting. Right there. So. Okay. And then I kind of got ahead of myself there a little bit. You end this solo with a whole note here on the 13th fret of the B string. That's a C note, so we're back kind of on our root note. I know we haven't talked much about that, but we're landing on a C, really safe note. It's a whole note with some vibrato. So that whole second phrase will be 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 4. And if you look at this page, there aren't many notes on it, but it's kind of chock full with a lot of stuff that's going to help develop your guitar technique as far as getting into lead guitar. Even if you don't know any scales, if you don't know the names of the notes on the fretboard, you can just look at the tab, interpret the notes, get your fingers on the right frets, know what a slide is, know what vibrato is. Even if it doesn't sound great right now, you know what it is and you can work on it. Even if you don't know what a bend is, or if you can't do it, you know what it is, and you have a couple of little tidbits of information that are going to help you to start getting bending under your fingers. Pardon the pun.
The nice thing about this little solo is that they're the identical melody, or not melody, sorry, but rhythm back to back, right? So it's the exact same rhythm for the first line, exact same rhythm for the second line. So once you kind of get the rhythmic feel, I mean, that's kind of half the battle, right?
Yeah, for sure. So
Very nice.
that is my challenge to you this week, is to, if you've never gotten into lead guitar before, give this a try. I'm sure you can do it. You can always, leave a comment or email.
Yeah.
If you have any trouble with it, I can help you out there.
Yeah, absolutely. So we got some time for questions. If anyone has any, feel free to send them in. While we wait for those to come in, maybe for the players who are past this initial thing and they've got the jam track, what would you recommend they start doing with it? If they want to, maybe they know the first pentatonic shape. How do you get going with it?
There are a couple things you can do. You can start trying to hit, be aware of what chords are going on, what going by, and kind of pull out the melody notes and choose your melody notes according to what chords are being played, and make a little bit wiser decisions about your notes. I mean, the notes in that solo are pretty chosen for you just because I want to make something that sounds good. But as far as intermediate players, if you're just getting into a scale shape and you scale shapes and you want to learn one, learn the C minor pentatonic scale.
Yeah.
C
Starting
minor
on the 8th fret there. I'm going to play the progression quick, and you just use that pentatonic scale and try and come up with something on the spot. So make sure I'm actually on. 2, 3, 4. So you can come up with something pretty awesome just using that one shape, right?
And I wasn't thinking about chord tones or anything there. I was just kind of letting my ear kind of naturally guide me, which sometimes you want to do. Sometimes you want to be a little more specific about the notes you choose.
Exactly. There are different routes, right? Like the way you and I both would approach this is very different. That's a little bit closer to the way that I approach it, right? Where I just kind of am like, let my ears kind of guide me and hope I'm doing stuff that sounds good. And you're like, think about it a little bit more and actually understand what's happening where I don't necessarily understand.
Let's do a rotation through with just you doing it. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4.
So again, a different approach, right? And I was basically just playing a pentatonic scale, but in some other spots, right? Different approaches, and that's one thing you have to find, especially when you're starting to make the leap into playing lead guitar and actually improvising on the spot, you kind of have to find the one that resonates with you. We've talked about this, remember when David Becker was out?
Yeah.
We're talking a lot about different ways of approaching music and stuff like that. And some of those jazz guys are so well thought out with these specific notes that they hit, and they hit them perfectly.
They know
and
exactly what note they're playing in any given second. Yeah.
Exactly. And then you have guys maybe a Jimi Hendrix or a Stevie Ray Vaughan, where they're not thinking about it,
He's just feeling it and going out.
It's interesting. And they sound both equally great, but just very different approaches. So you have to find what resonates with you.
Right. I will give you one for you more advanced guys. The chord progression is C to an E flat, right? C minor to an E flat. So.
Yep.
And a C minor pentatonic scale, the first two notes in it are C and E flat. Yep. So a really good exercise would be to go through this progression and emphasize C's on that first chord. And hit E flats when you're playing over the E flat.
Yes,
and then when you play with the 4 chord, hit that F. My voice just shot on me. Hit that F.
I'm just going to quickly jump in here to the chat where there's a question. This is from Mathachu. I probably missed this, but when you start the solo, why do you go from the 6th to the 8th fret? The sheet shows 8th, but not the 6th.
Right, there's a little slide, whichever way you're looking at it. There's a little line leading up to the 8, and all that means in tab speak on tablature is to slide up from some note below. Like, it can be all the way down there, it can be one fret. It's really open to your interpretation. So that's just a slide from below. That's what that little line means.
A good kind of like default is 2 frets down, right?
Yeah, I mean, I like the way that sounds, especially in a bluesy context, because you are indeed hitting a chord tone like the minor 7.
Totally.
That one minor chord. Yeah.
That's a good point. It doesn't look like we have any questions. There was one other thing that I wanted to mention about this jam track that I think is cool, and that's that this note works very well. And a lot of people...
That was Dorian.
And you can jump into that in this chord progression, even though technically that note would be like non-diatonic.
Yeah.
It works very well. Like if you play the progression, listen to how it changes the flavor when I add it in. Go for it. So that's without it. We'll do it one more time. Kind of cool. You can add some extra flavor, and that's kind of like my one flavor note when I don't know how to not be diatonic or whatever. That's my one that sometimes you can get away with, and that works really well with this progression. So try it.
That's awesome. Cool.
Yep.
I gotta say, I'm really liking this tone. I usually find one tone that I stick to, or like one amp model on this thing, and I just leave it forever because I don't feel like dealing with finding a new tone. But this, it sounds really good. And I was shooting for Jimi Hendrix, and I did that even though Jimmy didn't use a lot of delay all the time. But
Yeah, it's kind of like a Jimi Hendrix meets Eric Johnson kind of thing in my mind.
Two of my faves.
We nerd out about this stuff a lot. So we try not to talk about it too much on in these live shows, but
People would inevitably ask, what tone are you using on there? It sounds different than what you're doing.
exactly, yeah. That actually is a substantial change from what you're doing.
It's quite
and you're
different.
playing a Strat.
I know, what the heck? I've been on the Gretsch train for like the past 6 months. I guess not anymore.
It's a good change. I like it.
I think so.
I like it. Okay, well, should we play out then?
Sure.
Okay. Okay, we're gonna do a thing, and we'll see how it turns out.